Hello, people. It's me, Boring Productions. Again, boring you with more gossip. Well, in all seriousness, it is investigation based on my recollection of my previous work environment at U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico. Beautiful, moral place, highly moral. In any case, this is one of the Sandys. When I say Sandys, it's there was a time when there were, I think, 4 or 5 females with the name Alexandra, Alejandra, Alexandria, 4 or 5, I can't recall. But I'm not going to be specific to any of these women. I'll just call them the Sandys or Sandy, which is a derivative of that name. So in this case, I remember, and again, I have nothing personal against any of you guys. I actually have to say that I like everybody there. Great. Now the neighbor's alarm goes off, but I got along with everybody. I can't think of anybody that I can actually say I disliked. But when it comes to truth, the truth has no friends. And when it comes to Sandy, in this scenario, I'm not going to say which of them. There was one that I remember. I was helping her friend, a co-worker of hers. This was in the red zone. And when I came close to her, not Sandy, but her co-worker, when I came up to her to help her, because she had requested help, she freaked out because somebody stuck their hand in her anus. Now, I know that sounds like a child talking, but hey, I identify as a 9-year-old. But that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Now, obviously, it was not me. She probably thought it was me. She probably thought it was me initially, a guy who's sticking, my hand, into, it was not just touching. It was like probably even scraping her Virginia. I'm gonna try not to say the word. But when she turned around, she looked like she wanted to kill her, because that's a very, very, very private part of a woman. Of course, Sandy was, she had a big smile on her face, but her work buddy did not. She was, I don't know, she actually reacted like if it was a trauma, because again, that's a very delicate thing to do. Now imagine again, I always play this game. Imagine if it was a guy sticking his hand up a female's anus, touching her Virginia. You all know that all hell will break loose. The point here again that I will continue to emphasize over and over and over again, that is the work environment that I worked in. These are the things that I saw in most cases, almost all these cases. I saw them, or I heard, or overheard, etc. Or I, saw a text or video clip or Teams message, etc. Accidentally, of course. But the point here again is that's the work environment, and this is one of the one of these females I remember in Yellow Zone. I mentioned this before in my primary video, which I removed. But I remember in Yellow Zone one day a group of girls were chatting and they were calling each other the B word. Again, that's the work environment that we sometimes work at. It's ironic how much freedom women have. They sometimes complain of the patriarchy, but you women have so much freedom to sleep around like crazy, to be unfaithful to your husbands, to be unfaithful to your boyfriends, to stick your hands up another woman's, behind, to call each other the B word, to use language that is like, again, the piñata word. I know I've said it in the past, the real word, but I try not to use it too much. The piñata word, which is masturbation, openly and publicly. To send text and send naughty pictures, like in my case. You guys have so much freedom, and yet you complain about the so-called patriarchy. If that's not ignorance, what is? And then who do you blame? The guy. Then who gets usually fired? The guy. Because he has the wee-wee. You have the little Virginia thingy, the punani, but again, this is a very misogynist Western world that we live in, with misogynist policies and canons and rules and whatever you want to call them. But that is sad. God, you got so much fear. You can go to work dressed literally like a slut, because I've seen it. But if a guy wears tight pants, like I mentioned before, Mr. Sanchez, he was disciplined because a guy cannot do what a woman could do in all of these things that I've just mentioned. Again, if this is not misandry, what is? If this is not suppression of men, what is? Or persecution of men, what is? And this is at a federal level, which you would think would be neutral to these ideologies, but they're not. So once again, I remember clearly that day when Sandy stuck her hand into her co-worker's Virginia, and she just turned around. It almost seemed like she was going to punch her right there, but she didn't. She contained herself. That's the beautiful and moral and ethical work environment I worked at. You see? But if a guy gives you a nice gift, no, that is just horrendous. You see, honestly, can anybody make sense out of that? Again, I know I mentioned this before, but I'm trying to break it down into fragmented videos because I don't want them to be an hour long, for the most part, maybe 20 minutes. I'm trying to keep them short as much as I can. But that's the reality. So I put this little Pizza Hut pepper thing, because some girls like to touch other girls' pizza. And that's okay. It's just when a guy does it that's wrong. Of course, I've never done it. But I'm pretty sure some guys have. I can't say I'm pretty sure, but I'm pretty sure somebody on planet Earth, have done that to. A male has done that to a woman at some workplace. But again, in my investigations, in my recollections, I keep finding so much more of details that describe that toxic workplace. And Me Too does not take these things into account. See, Me Too does not say, hey, female, you cannot stick your hand into another female's, privates. See, Me Too does not see that wrong. It only sees it wrong when it's a guy. But when a woman does it, it's okay. See, this is why it's ridiculous. This is why it's pathetic and stupid and childish. These ideologies that don't do anything, serious. Because if it doesn't apply equally to everybody, guess what? It's just ridiculous, period. There's no real equality when it comes to these ideologies. It's more like extremism. And sadly, I want to protect women, but they need to be protected first from themselves. Because when they do these things, they give off the wrong message to guys. You see, when women do these things and they call each other the B word, and they stick their hands up another woman's behind, and and they spread their legs, randomly to whatever guy for whatever reason, you're sending out the wrong message here. And then if guys want to get in that same game, the guy gets in trouble. but not the females necessarily. So again, HR, Yarisis, Agnes, you failing individuals, incompetent individuals. In the next trainings, you might want to, you know those nice words that you guys always use in trainings, like empathy and fairness and justice and what was that? Equality. Maybe you should apply those rules equally across the board. But since I know you guys are failures, I know it's not going to happen. Because incompetence can't be fixed. You probably are, you women are probably there more, probably, I don't know, on the DEI side of ideology. Because there's no men in HR. I've never seen a man ever in any HR department in the more than 40 years that I've worked. Never. But since DEI is more recent, I can't blame DEI, but I don't know. The incompetence is not justifiable. That's my point. And it seems, and it's become justifiable. Again, it's become justifiable through the DEI ideology, which again, I don't know why the federal government involves itself in ideologies. It should be neutral. Like in the past, I know there was a debate on separation of church and state. Why? Why was that separation necessary? Well, because religious belief is an ideology, when you break it down in modern language. Religious ideology. Well, the same thing here. It might not necessarily be religious, it's moral somewhat. Me Too is supposed to be moral, a moral ideology. And DEI and woke and all that stuff. So, but it's still a different form of religion when you come to think of it, because it's a different form of belief system. It's just that it doesn't have a God attached to it. But most people are too ignorant to think beyond that point. So if you're confused, I'm sorry. But again, working for Sodom and Gomorrah, like I mentioned in the last video, this is expected. So I'm gonna end it here because again, I'm trying to keep my videos short. Till next time.